everyone, and welcome to the Jam Yearbook. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jim. Matt, here we go. This is the first time that we have had a listener suggest a show topic for us. Woo! This month, the show subject is going to be all about collaborations. I want to thank my buddy Jake for bringing this subject up as something we could discuss on the show in our Facebook group. Thanks, Jake. You know Jake. You played with Jake. I got you
Yes,
together.
I have.
We gigged.
He may not remember me, but yeah.
No, that's cool. I think this will cover some wide ground. There are obviously duets, big stars, supergroups, and then there are studio and production collaborations along with even unintentional ones. I think you'll be pretty happy, though, to know right away that I do not consider musicals to be collaborations.
Hallelujah.
So we will have no sing-alongs. You're the one that I want from Grease or Les Mis or anything for you to worry about, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, you keep bringing up musicals. People are going to start thinking I don't like them. And they and you would be very much 100% correct. Well, 90% correct. There are a couple of musicals I don't mind. I'll watch Little Shop of Horrors. And usually, Jim, the suggestions are for us to shut the fuck up. So
yeah, they are.
We got that going for us.
Yeah, we'll do that and we'll just get on with the rest of the show. So let's start. Duets. We talked about that first. And I'm sure people get nostalgic straight away when you think about the classic duets. Two major artists come together, and some of these moments have been absolutely huge.
Yeah, so let's get Queen and David Bowie out of the way. Under Pressure, right? It's one of the most iconic, great song performed by legends.
I think this is one of my favorite songs of all time. When I did one of my previous shows and I had people bring their music to the island, one of the guys on the show brought Under Pressure as his one single song he had to bring with him.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's a person born in the 20th century who hasn't at least heard the song. And I've never heard a person say anything bad about Under Pressure.
And that's why we just get it out of the way and don't really have to linger on it too much, because there's nothing else that we're going to say about this song. It's great, and I doubt anyone listening will say they haven't heard it in forever, right? It's an evergreen song.
Yeah.
Here's a little gem I haven't heard in forever, though. From two giants, Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney, Say, Say, Say. Wait, that sounded... Okay, I want to reverse that because it sounded a little bit odd saying Michael Jackson first. I'm going to say Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson with Say, Say, Say.
Maybe that goes back to the whole Lennon McCartney thing where McCartney's always kind of been second in line.
I know it's Michael Jackson, but come on, it's Paul McCartney.
That's true. This song, it became something of a legend because of the friendship that McCartney and Jackson formed. And then Michael Jackson bought all the rights to the Beatles songs shortly after, at a time when McCartney was prepared to take ownership back of his own music.
Yeah, and Sir Paul has only himself to blame. He was the one that explained to Michael that owning publishing rights is the way to make the big money. If you own the rights, you're going to get a paycheck every time that song's recorded, played live on the radio. Yeah, it sucks, but Paul, that's what happens. But Say, 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 it was a follow-up to their first hit together, The Girl Is Mine from Thriller.
Mine.
Girl is mine.
Mine.
You know, Michael. But Say, Say, Say was written first. It just never... Pipes of Peace came out after Thriller. They made another song on Pipes of Peace, though. The third time was not the charm. The Man, it led off side 2. That was not a very good effort. They should have had Quincy Jones come in for the hand claps on that one. But there was no room in the producer's chair because it was already occupied by Sir George Martin. Ooh. I'll take George. Yeah, sorry, love you, Quincy.
Yeah,
but George Martin.
Yeah, that's tough.
You're not going to separate him and Paul anyways.
Well, do you know what time it is, Matt?
Oh, you tell me.
Matt, it's Kenny time. Yeah, we can't talk about duets without talking about possibly the king of duets, Mr. Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, he was a serial collaborator.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. Sheena Easton, we've got tonight. Kim Carnes, Don't Fall in Love with a Dreamer. I never made it to the end of that 3-hour-long playlist we found. 3 hours of Kenny duets is a bit much.
There's never too much Kenny.
At one time.
Okay. It's a lot of ballads to take at once. I can definitely understand that. But there were a lot of highlights in his career as well. not necessarily a ballad, upbeat pop song written by Barry Gibb. Islands in the Stream with Dolly Parton is one of his best. And I got to admit, when I'm feeling nostalgic and missing my dad, I'll always throw some Kenny on. And those songs you mentioned, Don't Fall in Love with a Dreamer, We've Got Tonight, they just sound so good. I think he had the kind of voice that paired up with almost anyone else's style.
And I had completely forgotten that Barry Gibb had written that song. That is such a Bee Gees song.
It is. You go back and listen to it, and that it has that yeah.
It's got that feel,
that Bee Gees groove.
Yep. Through the 70s, I don't think Kenny ever stopped working. He had multiple albums out in the same year. From 76 to 79, he released 8 albums. That's putting in a shit ton of work.
Wow.
2 of those were full duet albums with Dottie West. Hence, you get a 3-hour-long playlist when you're doing these kind of albums. My parents had one of their albums, Classics, on 8-track. My favorite was always Till I Can Make It on My Own.
Yeah, good song. My dad had the Kenny and Dottie collection too.
Oh, yeah. And while Kenny could mesh with just about anyone, Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias made quite the odd couple on To All the Girls I Loved Before.
Yeah. I love singing that song as a kid, but it's not really a song we'd sing around our wives.
No. And this might be the first time since the 80s I've ever even thought of that song.
Can you imagine writing that? Can you imagine writing that song now and your wife looking at you? To all the girls I've loved before.
Yeah. Then I'd have to get a cold steak for my eye or something. I'd like to know how they got those two paired together. That just seems like an odd chemistry.
I think Julio at that time had hit an icon status amongst the Latino community. And Willie was really hitting his groove coming out of the late 70s, early 80s. And it was a good pairing up.
Yeah. I don't know Julio's persuasions, but maybe Willie introduced him to some weed. I don't know. Maybe that's what brought them together.
It could have just been a conversation they were having one night over a bottle of whiskey.
Yep.
I definitely think, in keeping with the 80s, that decade was full of duets from movie soundtracks. You think of like Dirty Dancing, Footloose, that comes to mind immediately. I've Had the Time of My Life and Almost Paradise were huge songs.
Oh, neither one of us have seen Dirty Dancing, right?
I've probably seen the whole thing pieced together in patchwork, but I've never sat and said, oh, you know what? I'm going to watch Dirty Dancing from the beginning to the end.
You never sat down with the intent to watch it. I thought we had pieced that together recently, but would you be shocked to learn that I've never seen Footloose?
I am actually kind of surprised that you didn't get yourself through Footloose.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more worried you might think less of me for not having seen that, but I'm sorry. I tapped out after I figured out the plot, which didn't take very long. Yeah, I'm only 13, but I'm already giving shit the side eye. I was there for most of the soundtrack, the Ann Wilson, Mike Reno, Almost Paradise, that it was a little syrupy for me, but I slogged through.
Matt, you need to go back and watch Footloose, and you need to trust me on this. First of all, John Lithgow is in it, and he's amazing. He's a great actor.
Yep, he is.
The underlying theme behind it are the kids trying to have the prom and just trying to have a dance at the end of their school year. There's a great subplot to it with Christopher Penn, very young, learning how to dance, which is a lot of fun. You're going from being the cowboy to being, a guy who's going to show up at the end.
Shaking his hips.
And doing that. But it has really good drawn-in drama, humor moments. Everybody, bear with me here. I know this is supposed to be about collaborations, and I'm defending Footloose. Come on, man. Footloose is a good movie. Don't watch the remake. Go watch Footloose. All right? That's it. End of story.
Maybe. Cut it out with a Footloose. I'm probably never going to watch it at this point. There's no video stores that carry it in my area. So we'll keep moving on with soundtracks. Up Where We Belong by Joe Cocker and a name I can never remember, Jennifer Warner, I think.
You still can't remember it. It's Jennifer Warnes.
Oh, I was close. Yeah.
She's from the Dirty Dancing song as well. I've Had the Time of My Life.
Okay, so she had more than one. Okay, my bad. Yeah. I'm not a smart man, Jimmy. Okay, boy, you're gonna beat me down till I watch Footloose, but we'll get on from there.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna tie this last one back to an earlier part of the show. Lionel Richie and Diana Ross's Endless Love. Timeless classic by two of the best. Nearly 350 million plays on Spotify tells me I'm not wrong. So everyone out there chuckling, stop. Okay. Tying it back and show another way well-known artists collaborate. Lionel Richie wrote a song for Kenny Rogers called Lady. I think a lot of people probably know that. Not a duet, but to me, intentionally writing songs for others when you're someone of Lionel Richie's level of fame, that's collaborating. Lionel wrote 3 more songs for Kenny's next album. One song, Going Back to Alabama, has Michael Jackson singing on backing vocals. And that is the year before Thriller is released, in the year he wrote Say, Say, Say with McCartney. And after all that, I say that's enough of Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, and thank you for getting us over the movie hump.
Yes.
Even though Endless Love was from a soundtrack as well.
You're right. Who was in that movie, Jim?
Brooke Shields and
a guy.
Some guy who was in a movie with Brooke Shields.
Who cares? It was Brooke Shields at the time.
I'm actually glad you brought that song to the show because I was wanting to put this in the notes, and then I was kind of embarrassed to admit how much I love the song Endless Love with Lionel Richie and Diana Ross.
You know what?
It's a timeless, epic, beautiful song.
It is. And I'll fully lean into my love of Lionel Richie too.
Yeah. I think it's easy to be nostalgic about duets because of the time we grew up in, but duets have continued to thrive in the 2000s. So I'm just going to step right out and say Pink has had some beautiful duets. If we can drop our machismo for 2 minutes and just admit it.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga did the album of duets with Tony Bennett, which was really cool.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. And then if you want to think about some unexpected collaborations, it's just one song, but go check out the Thundercat, Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins Show You the Way song. Really cool.
Now that is interesting sounding.
Oh, it's really good. Kenny Loggins makes Justin Timberlake's falsetto look foolish. And I mean, I think Michael McDonald just sings like that anyway.
Yeah, he does. Can't be Michael McDonald. We should rename this a Kenny episode. Oh my God. We got from Kenny Rogers to Kenny Loggins. But this is the kind of stuff. That's why I like to read liner notes. I like learning who's working together. Sometimes you start seeing the same unknown names frequently. And you're like, geez, who is this Steve Lukather guy? Jeff, Mike, Steve Precario, are these the Groucho brothers? Oh no, they're from Toto. You know, those guys have played and written for everyone. That's probably more of a example of Easter eggs for music nerds who geek out on that kind of thing, kind of like me. But no, apparently I like to store that useless knowledge into my head for no good reason.
And before we lose people, let's shift gears because Matt's going to bring you his useless knowledge.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to go to hip hop and the 100 Billboard pop songs. And you brought the phrase to me.
How is that better than what I was going to do?
It doesn't make it better, but you brought the phrase to me, low hanging fruit.
Yep.
And this is stuff that's just easy to pick on, folks. I remember a time 25, 30 years ago when a guest rap on a pop song seemed like the coolest thing that was going to happen. And I know most of the time the music I was listening to back there was kind of garbage, but these songs were gym jams. So I was really excited about who was going to be on the song sometimes and thinking, oh, but have you heard the rap part in the middle? No matter what else was going on, you know, it was just seemed like the cool thing that was happening. But then over the years, it had just recycled itself so much over and over again that it's become old news. And I don't think that lends anything to a song the way that it used to. I think now record labels use this as an attempt to expand the audience of both artists. So, you know, I'm going back 10 or 15 years here, but when Rihanna popped up, you know, you take Rihanna, you add a little Eminem, and you have a recipe for a hit by expanding the audience.
Yeah, little label synergy probably. You took the piss out of a rant I had planned too. Because this was the most annoying trend at the time. It seemed like every other song on the radio, it had to follow suit. You know, if it was just a song here or there, I'd got no problem with it, but it became the thing to do. And you said the right thing. It was a recipe. It felt like a manipulation, no originality, because after a while, if you keep doing the same thing over and over, it does nothing to elevate the song because it's just lazy.
I think one of the things that happened was that it turned into a lot of hip hop artists doing their flow, their song, but with somebody coming in. I think of like a B.O.B. with Haley Williams, Airplanes,
Yeah.
where she just sings the chorus. So it's just the hook that's brought in by the pop star.
Yep.
And then he does his rap. But the two of them never need to stand in a studio together. You can make that hook
Yeah.
somewhere else, create that, and then send it off to the hip hop artist, give it a beat, and all he needs to do is come up with a flow in between the hook.
Because of sampling, and we don't have enough time for me to rant about this, but rappers and what you just explained, this kind of collaboration, it's so easy to do now. Because all you got to do is send a file off, and anybody's got some free time, they're just going to go into the studio because you can do that shit from home, right? And rap is very much in the now lyrically, and that's something that kind of holds it back for me at times because I don't need to hear beef tracks. I don't need to hear you, going off on somebody else and airing your dirty laundry on Facebook, a la in a musical form. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't age well. That's not to say there isn't music in that genre that we don't like, old and new. And pop, it's about being and staying relevant for as long as possible. And that's where you get those collaborations. It can kind of help bring somebody to relevance, or if somebody's slipping a little bit, you can help prop them up, introduce new acts, blah, blah, blah. Collaborating just helps drive curiosity and keep the hype machine moving.
No, I agree. That's good. Yeah.
But so let's move on to supergroups
All
because
right. Shifting gears again.
yeah, because I was starting to spiral. I think a little, I think I need some vitamin B here. Okay. I had a dose of vitamin beer. So there have been popular supergroups all along, ones in the 80s, traveling, because, our age, the 80s rule. Traveling Wilburys, Bad English, Damn Yankees, Power Station. Those are some of the ones that formed from more famous members. And if you're thinking supergroup based on level of fame, I don't think you can get any higher than the Traveling Wilburys.
No. They are probably the most popular group of people ever. If you want to put together number one hits behind the artists in a band. But I'll say this about Damn Yankees, Power Station, Bad English, all great bands. I owned all these albums, including the Traveling Wilburys. But those bands were kind of known of members that weren't necessarily the hit of the band. Yeah, I mean, you've got
John Waite had what, one big hit?
You do have like, Ted Nugent in Damn Yankees, Robert Palmer in Power Station, whereas the Traveling Wilburys were a bunch of guys who probably got together in a vocal booth and got stoned and sang along to some songs.
Yeah, those were superstars.
Yeah, those guys, you're talking Bob Dylan. If people don't know, go look this up or find out if you're young and you're listening to the show. Traveling Wilburys were Jeff Lynne, Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Roy Orbison, and Tom Petty. You can't do much better than that.
Yeah. Mic drop, man.
Uh-huh.
Right? Just the songwriting talent in there alone.
Yeah. And great songs on those albums.
Oh, yeah. Tremendous. People firmly planted in the 90s may disagree with us on the Traveling Wilburys. You're wrong, because while they were good, they can't hold a candle to the Wilburys, but we had Velvet Revolver and Audio Slave combined from some 90s favorites.
Yeah, but then we had Temple of the Dog, who came before that.
Yeah, they're kind of are they more of a supergroup after the fact, though? Because the members made it in Nirvana and Soundgarden, and then people kind of hit back on Temple of the Dog.
Yeah.
But grunge also had Mad Season as well. I'm sure the 90s grunge scene in Seattle was loaded with one-off collaborations that never made it past studio sessions, because so many bands rising at the same time, and they were all part of that growing scene at the club level. It had to be amazing. And it was only a matter of time before Dave Grohl and Josh Homme did something together. Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters, obviously, Nonstop Music Machine. And quietly, though, Josh Homme is too. Caius, Queens of the Stone Age, Eagles of Death Metal. I could go on and on. This guy collaborates with a ton of people. Them Crooked Vultures saw them living out the fantasy life by playing with John Paul Jones.
Oh, can you just imagine? When I saw them play live on stage with John Paul Jones in some of the videos that I got to see, and musically, even though he was older than the both of them, he was toe to toe, if not the star of the stage when he was out playing.
Yeah, because it's John
Yeah.
Paul freaking Jones, but it didn't
Yeah.
feel like there was an ego involved when
Oh
there
no, he was
easily
happy.
could have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, no, he was happy to play with them. And I'm surprised I'm going to bring this up, but there was Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony. They
Oh
came
yeah.
together. I think it was Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers was the drummer,
Yes.
and they were able to commiserate about their ending relationships with Van Halen with Chickenfoot and the Circle.
See, now you're going to open a Pandora's box for someone like me because you got Jason Bonham. He's been around the block a few times, various bands. Then I'm going to have to talk about Joe Satriani, which is going to lead me to Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan. And then wait, oh, hey, David Lee Roth put together a supergroup, Jim.
That's his band. Yeah.
But heading back to the 80s again, because we're already there with David Lee Roth, I remember people talking about band members of this group called Asia. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Uriah Heep, King Crimson. Those bands meant nothing to me. I didn't know those bands at that tender young age. I just knew I loved Asia. For a bunch of prog guys, they kept it tight and it drew me in.
Yeah, I remember trading my Aldo Nova cassette tape for Asia's debut album with
Oh, good
somebody
choice.
on the bus one day when I was in 5th grade. Yeah, that's when.
Those 10 seconds of the beginning of Fantasy, you can just keep rewinding. You don't have to buy the whole album for that
I
one.
know that's all you need.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to bring up a household name for everybody, apparently Eric Clapton, every band he was in was just a super group anyway, because you had Cream, the Yardbirds, Blind Faith, Derek and the Dominoes. We could probably say the same for Jeff Beck.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing that all these musicians back then, they were all in each other's orbits.
Can you imagine the other members of the Yardbirds? You had Clapton, Beck, and Page. you gotta start thinking we're doing something right or we're really doing something wrong.
Yeah.
What are we doing? And we completely skipped over country because they had their Wilburys version, the Highwaymen, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson. But how do we skip over George and Tammy, Johnny and June,
Yeah.
Dolly and Porter Wagner, and Conway and Loretta?
Crazy.
Those were huge staples of country music duets.
And if I'm going to give a shout out to the jam band folk out there, it was more recent, but Oysterhead. I can't leave it out. A lot of my friends, especially Jake, who suggested this episode, is a fan of Stuart Copeland. Great drummer. Pair him with Trey Anastasio of Fish, and then Les Claypool. What an odd trio.
Les Claypool's done a couple with Sean Lennon too, but it kind of feels like we're getting into more of the fringe elements, right?
Yeah, we are. So I'm not going to call it a super group, pulling it back in because this is very recent within the past couple of months. It was a collaboration like no other. We didn't talk about it in the March wrap up. And I was kind of sad about that, but then I'm glad we have this episode. And I know I think the morning I listened to it, I sent a message to you straight away that was just like, I've got goosebumps. Mark Knopfler assembled the greatest, most iconic guitarist.
Shit, yeah, I do remember that.
To appear on his charity remake of his own instrumental, Coming Home. To me, musically, this was one of the greatest gifts of music I have received already in 2024.
That was extremely interesting. I didn't think it was going to last the whole song. It's a bit long for an instrumental to hold my attention, but the damn thing, it kept evolving and it became Where's Waldo, right? It's a game to pick out who's playing when. At first, it's easy. Jeff Beck, that's his style, and that Telecaster, it's so identifiable. But after that, good luck. It's layer after layer, lick after lick, and it can be like 3 seconds this person, 3 seconds that person. Watch the video on YouTube, and they flash the names who is playing, and when they're doing it, you'll be blown away. It's amazing.
I think for myself, this song was so magnificent right from the start because it is the very last piece of music Jeff Beck recorded before he passed away.
Oh yeah, you're right. That does
Yeah,
kind of make it hit differently because
it
he was
does.
pretty prominent throughout the song.
He is prominent.
And if you listen to this song, you're not going to believe how many players they tucked into this.
Well, I'm going to call out a couple of names here. I'm not going to call out everybody, but the ones that stand out to me: Jeff Beck, obviously, Clapton, Sheryl Crow's playing bass on the song.
So is Sting.
Yep, Peter Frampton, David Gilmour, Buddy Guy, Tommy Iommi, Joan Jett, Brian May, Tom Morello, Rick Nielsen, Niles Rogers, Joe Satriani, Slash, Springsteen. You have Ringo Starr and his son both playing drums on it. You've got Tedeschi and Trucks playing on the song. I
Yeah.
mentioned them earlier.
Yep.
Pete Townsend, Steve Vai, Joe Walsh, and Ronnie Wood.
Did you say Alex Lifeson?
No, I
Jesus,
didn't.
it goes forever.
Mike Rutherford, Albert Lee, Buddy Guy. I think I've left a lot of these names off. So yeah, the
And
list
I
is
kept waiting to
incredible.
see if I could identify Joan Jett because she's pretty much known as a rhythm player. I don't know if she's ever pulled off a solo.
She's probably just strumming a power chord somewhere,
Yeah,
isn't it?
there was a part, probably like three quarters of the way through. I'm like, oh, that's got to be Joan. And I looked at the video. Oh yeah, that's Joan Jett playing in there.
There it
That's right.
is. There it
So that's what
is.
I love about her, man. She's awesome.
All right, Matt. So in 2005, the BBC asked its readers to vote for individual band members to create an ideal supergroup. And that audience poll picked all four members of Led Zeppelin. They put Led Zeppelin together as the supergroup.
Okay, but if you remember back in the very, very, very first episode of the Jammy Rook, when we were just going through the years, episode 1 covered 1971. I said I would have selected the Who.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Essentially.
Yep.
Because I love that rhythm section. I think Pete Townsend is underrated.
Oh, stop.
And I
You
didn't
can't
want
talk about how much you love the Who right
and I don't
now.
want Lord of the Rings lyrics in my songs.
You don't need to go on about the Who right now. Go on
Why
to the
not?
next part because
Who?
Exactly. Yeah, that joke hasn't been around for fucking 60
Yeah. Who's
Have
on
you heard
first?
the Who? The Who?
Who's on first?
Yeah.
The Whom. There's a band we should make.
Well,
The Whom.
Led Zeppelin's on second, third, fourth, and home base. That's for
and they're
fucking
hitting
sure.
fucking home runs. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
So, Matt, I got a challenge for you. How about instead of just name checking all these bands and supergroups, let's take a moment here to form our own supergroup. Just like the old episodes of 5 songs, you get 5 artists, I get 5 artists, and we make our own supergroup of musicians.
I was hoping you were going to forget about this because in that episode, that first episode, you said you were threatening me that we were going to do this one day. This is going to be impossible. Did you talk to Sandy about this? It seems like Sandy's revenge for that March Madness metal fucking bracket we made him do.
And just so people know that are listening, we often will jot notes down for what we're going to talk about during the show. We've brought that up, but we didn't do that for this part right here because I told Matt, you can keep it fluid right up till the end. And
okay.
Once we're finished, we'll ask the Facebook group which one of us has put together the best supergroup.
Oh, I'm going to lose. I know I'm going to lose. I'm going to second guess myself at every goddamn level of this thing. Because what do I do, Jim? How do I do this? Do I want to form it around a vocal pairing that I like? Do I want to go R&B? Do I want to go rock, country? Do I want to, how many multi-instrumentalists do I got to bring in? Do I got to keep egos in check?
Is it about instruments? Is it about songwriting? Is it about performers?
God.
So
this is my fucking kryptonite. I know you know it.
I think for me, this is not about who the best musician is for each part that I'm going to put in there.
Oh, no, I agree.
It's about the band that I could think of that I would really enjoy hearing this collaboration together. And I'm sure we're going to have some way back and forth. So are we going to start with instruments or are we going to start with just 1, and 2 or 3 and 4? How do you want this to go?
Let's maybe make a pyramid out of this. All right. The bottom's got to be the foundation. Start with drums.
Okay.
Start with drums. I got to do this, Jim.
You got to pick somebody.
I'm fidgety. I'm fidgety.
Uh-huh.
So I got to think of somebody who is diverse, but I know my musical tastes. And I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go Questlove, roots drummer,
Great, 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 great. Yeah.
because he can play with feel. Oh, Ginger Baker though.
Well, you could pick
No,
him
no,
because we did
Questlove.
say Questlove. Okay.
I just got to rip off the Band-Aid.
And just so everybody knows, this can be alive or dead. This is what we've kind of spoken about. So
Questlove's alive.
yeah, no,
Okay.
Ginger Baker is not. So
Yeah, true. Okay, yeah,
yeah,
true.
yeah. And my drummer is not, sadly.
All right, who is he?
My drummer is Taylor Hawkins.
You bastard! I could have sworn the first name that popped in my head was going to be Jimmy Chamberlain.
Jimmy Chamberlain's probably my favorite drummer, but if I'm going to put together a band of the artists that I'm going to present all together, Taylor Hawkins, I mean, come on. He could actually sit in for Dave Grohl, which is an incredible feat.
Yeah.
He could sit in with Queen. He played with Supergroups. I think he had his own. We haven't really talked about. He is the drummer on Alanis Morissette's debut album.
True.
He is one of the greatest drummers of the past 30 years of our lives. And True. So sad we lost him. But if I'm going to pick a drummer who's going to put anything that's needed behind any of the music of this foundation of anybody who's coming, I love Jimmy Chamberlain, but I think his kind of jazz style wouldn't really work with everything else that I'm going to suggest.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
I like that. I'm happy with Questlove because I love his groove. I love his feel.
I don't even think it comes down to the groove. I think Questlove can play everything Taylor Hawkins can play. I think both those guys are from the same school.
Yeah. You're a drummer or you're a percussionist? Oh, Stuart Copeland. That's a tough one to leave behind. But
and I did leave him behind because I love him, but he has a kind of stand out part to himself. That's why the Police work so well as a trio.
I hear you. Yep. All right. So bass player. Let's move on to bass player. Let's complete our rhythm section.
Should I go first?
Yeah, you go first because I want to think for a minute. Yeah. Put me on the spot.
All right. So for my first bass player, no. I've got 5 bass players.
You can't pull off a Ned's Atomic Dustbin and have 2 bass players.
There is nothing that says I can't do that. But I'm going to pick one, and the bass player I'm going to pick is Pino Palladino.
So what?
Yeah, exactly. Probably most recently known for being the bass player for the John Mayer Trio. When the Who were on tour and John Entwistle died, Pino Palladino was the guy they called in to replace him. Pino Palladino has played with Don Henley, Jeff Beck, The Who, Clapton. He played with Ed Sheeran. He's played on some of his songs. Gary Newman, Jules Holland.
He played with Gary Newman, really?
He played on Tears for Fears, Phil Collins.
Really? I had no idea that guy had that much of a back catalog.
Yeah, and Steve Lukather, who you brought up, he was the bass player on his solo album.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, Tina Turner, Jerry Rafferty, Pino Palladino knows how to play
me ideas of how I
everybody.
Want Tina Turner in there. Jesus.
Oh boy,
you're
sorry.
Killing me. Okay, so I'm just gonna take the reins here. Bass player. I need somebody who can kind of like fill whatever I need to be done, whatever genre I want to get done, because I think Questlove can do it all. Carol Kay can do it all. Wrecking Crew bassist, right? Not a household name, but played on thousands of recordings. So look her up. I don't have time to go through all of her accolades in her resume. Carol Kay is the boss.
She is. Like, I just rang off all of Pino Palladino's stuff. Honestly, Carol Kay puts him to shame as far as what she's been on.
Yeah, Carol Kay is amazing.
So you got to go next since I went back to
All
back.
right. So, so we got our rhythm section built up. I got Questlove and I got Carol K. And I don't know if I could live with it myself if I didn't select Prince. Because again, I'm keeping egos in check, right? Egos are not a problem here because I think Prince would want to do his own thing. But I think there's enough tape on Prince to say that dude can do everything and anything.
I think you said you were going to build a pyramid and then you just put your top piece
I know.
right there.
You're right. I did. I did. Prince. I gotta have Prince. Well, I guess maybe I was a little worried that you were gonna pick him, but then I should have thought, no, Jim's not gonna pick Prince. And then there's no rule that says we can't pick the same person.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even think about the fact that I could have like stolen Prince out from underneath you and
Yeah.
done that.
Damn.
Yeah,
Damn. That
yeah.
would have been good because I was being nice by not picking Jimmy Chamberlain. But I think he's more of a genre specific than like Questlove is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta take Prince. I mean, you get songwriting,
Mhm.
multi-instrumentalist, whatever you want done, even if he doesn't know how to do it, he's gonna figure it out. He's got
Yeah,
the
he is.
confidence to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, if you're going to go with Prince and I get to go back to back here, then I'm just going to say both the guys that I'm picking, one right after the other, and then I'll explain it a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to guitar. I've got my drummer, Taylor Hawkins. I got Pino Palladino on bass, and I am taking Nuno Betancourt on the left hand side of the stage. I am
Okay.
taking Dean Ween on the right hand side of the
Oh, the
stage.
Diener. The
Yeah.
Diener. I love the
Because
Diener.
here's the thing, Nuno can play anything. And not to say that Diener can't, but Nuno is probably one of the most accomplished guitar players of the past 30 plus years of our lives.
Yeah.
And one of the true kind of guitar legends to come out of and survive the 80s, early 90s, and still hold a high amount of respect today. I mean, come on. The guy was the touring guitar players for Rihanna. I don't want to go see that, but he can do that. And
Yeah.
that's the cool part. But all of his solos, how he plays, the new Extreme album goes to show that there's nothing wrong with what he's ever contributed to anybody's music. It's fantastic. And then on the flip side of that, you have that style that Dean plays, where I think Dean could play a great rhythm a lot for that. I think there's a lot that Dean could probably pull off that we don't get to see with Ween that would, kind of be similar to what Nuno could do. But then there's also a tone that Dean has to his guitar.
Yeah.
So where Nuno can come in and do all the speed stuff and everything, when you need it to sound really pretty, that's what Dean can do. So you've got my two guitar players right
Okay.
there, Nuno and Dean side by side.
All right. So now you're making me think. Now I got to think who's going to pair well with Prince. That's a pretty goddamn tall task. I may have painted myself in the
well,
corner
well, I'm
here.
gonna guess Prince is gonna be your lead guitar player as well.
How couldn't he be? I mean, but then again, Carol K can play multiple instruments. If he's got to take bass, if I want a little slap or whatever, Carol K
Yeah.
can take over something else. Uh, so okay, I'm gonna hold off on my other guitarist because somebody we talked about previously on the show, I'm gonna bring in to my super group because I need a keyboard player. I need a smooth soul singer, but he's also got a little bit of funk to him since I think that's kind of feeling how I'm building this thing. I'm going to go with Lionel Richie. That's
Oh,
a dark horse, I think, maybe.
yeah.
Lionel
Lionel,
Richie.
Lionel and Prince.
Yeah, Lionel and Prince. Because, yeah, I think people think Prince has a big ego and he might be the problem, but I think Prince respects talent. Carol K would just tell him to shut the fuck up and Prince go, "Yes, ma'am." And be done with it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. She would have,
and
yeah.
and I think Lionel brings for first of all, love Lionel Richie, right? Huge Commodores fan. Love what Lionel does. I think Prince would respect that. And I would like to hear, hey, Commodores, they had some funky stuff too. I'd like to hear what those two could maybe Prince could bring that back out in Lionel a little bit.
I think that Lionel could wave the finger back at Prince just as well.
Oh yeah.
No, 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 no. We're gonna do this. He could wave that
Yeah.
finger back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Look at my resume.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I got back to back though.
You do.
Shit. God damn. So am I really gonna have to? So I got Questlove, Carol Kay, Prince, Lionel Richie. So I'm at my fifth. I guess I really wasn't helping my argument at all because I have no time to wait. So I'm gonna okay. Lionel Richie was a dark horse. At least I thought. This might be even be a more of a dark horse. This might be an even more of a dark horse, but it's a name I just popped to mind. Great songwriter. He can do multiple instruments. He can sing. Little blue-eyed soul. I want Daryl Hall.
Oh, that's
Isn't
that. Yeah.
yeah. And now looking back, I'm like, I want a second go at this, Jim. I don't know. I like my first run, but I also have other thoughts in mind. But
Well,
I'm dialed in. I'm gonna say Daryl Hall as my fifth. I love Hall and Oates and his Daryl Hall. The dude's talented. I got this. I got my thing loaded with songwriters. Um, fucking solid as hell rhythm section, multi instrumentalists. I would like maybe a curiosity factor. I'd like to see what these people can do together.
I think it sounds pretty intriguing.
That's Jim saying, "Man, you fucked up a little bit right there, bud."
No, no. The Daryl Hall is a. It's a. It's like the wild card.
Right, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
supergroups have that, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess that leaves me standing on my own with one person at the end. No, I can respect the wild card because mine's a wild card as well, and I'm at the top of the pyramid.
Okay.
Here I am. This is my build up. I have Taylor Hawkins, I have Pino Palladino, I have Dean Ween, and I have Nuno Betancourt. And I'm sure there are people out there.
Solid goddamn rhythm. Solid.
I'm sure there are people out there that are screaming at me why I don't have Hendrix, Van Halen, Stevie Ray Vaughan,
You
David
went Taylor Swift,
Gilmore.
didn't you?
I didn't. I, I understand why people would want us to pick some of these iconic musicians, but the reason why I didn't is because I wanted to really put together a band where I thought about the sound that was going to take place between these artists. You talked about people getting along, and I'm thinking about one artist not really plateauing over the other one within the band so that the band is as big as it can be and not have a standout musician within it. So anybody born after the 2000s is probably going to be really happy with the fact that I'm going to choose Hayley Williams, the lead singer of Paramore.
Okay, now see, that's a dark horse I love because that's the one out of left field that makes you go, wait, I don't really know this Pino Palladino by name, but dang, you're gonna put Haley in with these heavyweights. Okay, I love it.
I think that Hayley, she might not have the most recognizable voice. She doesn't necessarily have a Janis Joplin, a Aretha, but these vocalists who stand out on their own deserve to do so and not within a band necessarily. And Hayley Williams, yeah, she's gotten more popular over the years on her own, but Paramore is still kind of the foundation of what has gotten her there. So I think that this is a fair shake. And I saw Paramore a year and a half ago, and a bit ago, and they were incredible. She's a great front person. She can be a great songwriter for a band like this. And the only person, maybe if I thought she wrote the songs, but I'm not 100% sure that I would think I would put in here as a woman would be Ann Wilson. But that, for me, it comes
You're
down
giving
to
me
the
an aneurysm.
song. That comes down to the songwriting of the band. But for some
Yeah.
reason, putting this together, like I said, Janis was my first thought. But then I realized with Janis Joplin, she's going to become iconic and step away from the band.
But if it's a super group, right? Who cares? They only last for a couple albums, typically.
Yeah, but the supergroup point is supposed to be that they all came from nowhere together with this talent and formed this band. The world can't know they were famous already. They have to come
Well, then
from.
you got Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Because, I mean, really, until it was Crosby, Stills, and Nash, nobody really knew.
Yeah, but that's not a supergroup. Then you're saying Sonny and Cher is a super duet, but they were just a duet.
Well,
You
maybe I'm
know,
not understanding your argument because, again, I'm not a smart man, Jimmy.
no, you're not. It's pretty.
It's pretty relevant, isn't it?
I'm
It's pretty
just kidding.
obvious.
All right, so there are our bands. Matt, do you want to list your five?
Yeah, I got Questlove, Lionel Richie, Carol Kay, Prince, and Daryl Hall. And you made me rethink because one of your comments there, it's like I'd actually kind of like to hear Lionel Richie with Aretha Franklin, but I don't know who I'd drop because then I would lose some musicality. So I'll have to go with what I got.
Okay. I have Taylor Hawkins, Pino Palladino, Nuno Bettencourt, Dean Ween, and Haley Williams.
You might have a more rock, modern. I might actually lean more adult contemporary, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, you got some funk and soul in there.
Yeah, I do got some soul.
Yeah.
I do got soul.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about mashups then. Right? If we're gonna go downhill, let's just go to mashups.
What are we supposed to take them seriously? Are they a joke?
They're a joke.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
right. You know, we had an airing of the grievances about Kid Rock last time. Go ahead and listen. I think, yeah, I said some bad things about Kid Rock. Not comment, a bad comment. How about that? I was feeling some kind of way about that guy. But personal feelings aside, some of that mashup that he did was two songs I really don't give a shit about hearing about separately. I don't need to hear them mashed together. And it's Kid Rock. But uh you know, I didn't listen to get a fresh perspective. I got way too much respect for the algorithm. I don't need that showing up in my release radar.
But it isn't it just basic DJ stuff that goes back to the origins of hip
Yeah.
hop, where you find a couple of songs and you match the same beats per minute and you just make sure the keys of the song match up. Like when people think that I Was Made for Loving You match up with Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
At least they were both disco.
Yeah, but it's really just a matter of they're in the same key. So you can put these together and they've got the same beats per minute. And that's all that matters in the end. Maybe this just kind of proves how formulaic hit songwriting is. Like how many verses and choruses of hit songs can fit in with one another. And if you look at mashups, really, if you look at it on YouTube, it's a whole damn lot. Like there's a lot of them that just kind of just, oh, wait a
Let's
minute.
put Enter Sandman with this.
Yeah, because this is the verse, this is the chorus, this is the bridge, this is the verse, and this is the outro. And it all fits within that. And that's why the mashup works together.
That and being drunk, I think helps a lot. I'm sure it's loads of fun, but they're kind of a curiosity. I mean, there's only so many keys. You know, I'll check out mashups from now and then. You know, I'll stumble across them, but they're never going to enter a playlist of mine or get repeated listens because I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. But it's also easy to manipulate beats per
Yeah.
minute. It's also easy to you want to down pitch something just to fit a pitch, but to get it into a time scale that you need, you can do that. Are they imaginative? I think they're more spawned off people being drunk and high, going, "Oh, let's do this and this, and we'll try to make it fit." I'm not saying it's not fun or cool, and I'm not saying I wouldn't do one or try to think of one. I'm sure Jim, after we get off the show, will think, oh, what about this and this? Yeah, it'd be great. But other than that Kid Rock one, can you think of one that's been in the charts?
But when you think of a DJ back in the 1980s or 1990s, they'd be like, but have you ever heard me mix up Public Enemy with Elvis Costello? And it's the same thing.
Oh
It
yeah.
is the same thing they were doing with a deck back
Yeah.
then that people are putting on YouTube
Yeah. And
now,
not making
showing you
money
the
off
old
it.
music videos. Yeah. And all of a sudden somebody's like, but as far as like the Kid Rock things go, as far as shamelessly lifting a
Kid
song
Bob
and doing
Ritchie.
their own thing, yeah. Not unless you want to start calling out most of the rap music that's coming along in the past 35 years. Because come on, you can't touch this is really just a rewrite of Rick James Super
And
Freak.
that's why we can't bring rap and hip hop into this too much because of the sampling. It's it's all rap is a lot of collaboration. So yeah, it's better off, and we're fairly ignorant on the subject. We're about 20% literacy rate on that. So we should probably just quit while we're ahead.
Yeah, we should. Go listen to Paul's Boutique by the Beastie
Yep.
Boys if you want to hear a really good collaboration of all kinds of different
That's a
music
great
put
damn
together.
album. Yeah. So
Yeah,
the
it is.
comment that spurned the whole thing was the Black Keys. This whole
This is
collaborative episode,
yes.
because the more and more we talk about it, Jim, this is a damn deep topic that we could go multiple episodes about. We're not, but let's just get back to the Black Keys.
Welcome to Matt and Jim's collaboration
Yeah,
show because we
exactly.
could
Oh,
talk
this
about
is a
that each week.
collaboration, right? You're the Jim Jams,
Yeah,
I'm the Matt
yeah.
Indie favorites or whatever. But so this is my turn to rant. And I'm sorry if this upsets anybody that's a Black Keys fan. And this isn't anything new with the Black Keys. They've kind of been what's a kinder word than accused? Um, I don't know one. So I'm just gonna
Presumpted.
yeah, here we go. Ohio Players, new album, right? So it starts with this song called This Is Nowhere, a song they collaborate with Beck. All right. Everybody loves Beck. Everybody, well, not everybody loves Black Keys. Jack White, at least he didn't used to love the Black Keys. Beck even has a songwriting credit. Which of those three gets credits to this song? I'm not really sure. Um, I'm trying to tone it down so I don't sound too accusatory because I don't want to be sued. I don't know what our reach is. I'll just say the main melody of This Is Nowhere is reminiscent of a song by Gary Newman called M.E. I'll also just say, in case people don't know that one, that the Basement Jacks gave Gary Newman credit for what they do because they're an electronic duo for their song "Where's Your Head Out." That bass line that goes down, 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 down. This is nowhere. Gary Newman should have songwriting credit in that.
I listened to the song, and Matt, that's very fair. I didn't hear it at first. I did listen to the album through when it came out. I think I'd been hearing so many songs that sounded like Chris Isaac's Wicked
Oh,
Game
yes.
recently that this kind of slipped by me. And then you brought it up, and I went back and had a listen, and yeah, spot on. Gary Newman deserves a writing credit for this. Ironically, my favorite track on the whole album was I Forgot to Be Your Lover with Booker T, which ironically was originally written and performed by Booker T. So it's a true cover.
You know who originally covered that? Well, maybe not
Who?
originally. Billy Idol. To be a
Oh,
lover.
that's right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
man. Billy Idol
Yeah.
fucking rocks.
Yeah.
And they even named this album Ohio Players after another band.
Well, I think that's a
Oh,
nod to all the soul music they were trying to pay tribute to on the album.
okay. I will say Ohio is a breeding ground for a lot of talent in a lot of different, you know, areas.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
music is definitely one of them. Pretenders, love you. But Jim, what did you think of the Noel Gallagher collaborations on this Black Keys album?
I don't hate the Noel Gallagher songs. There were not songs I was going to put on repeat either. They were good on the game. The first track he joins them on sounds something like out of your indie phase. Those songs you brought to the show, from the early 2010s,
I
late
hear
2000s. Yeah, they sound good. The other two songs, Only Love Matters and You'll Pay, they sound like a tip to the Northern English soul that was coming out of, well, Matt, you guessed it, Northern England in the 1960s. They could reasonably find a fan base here over in the UK, but I don't see American fans waking up to this and saying, oh, wait, Northern Soul, we understand this now, because they had Motown. So there's a
Motown.
big difference there. Yeah.
Motown.
Northern Soul is its whole entire genre over here. And honestly, if you ever take a moment, dive into it, do a deep dive, you'll appreciate it. You'll enjoy it.
I'm sure I will. Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It is the effect of Motown on UK music, in my opinion. And there is a different stylization that came out of that. And Noel Gallagher did a great job bringing that to those two songs. So, yeah.
Okay, hold on, Jim. We're spiraling out of control, I think. I don't know if it's the beer or it's because of the weight of this subject, because collaborations is it's as endless as covers. I think we can agree on. So let's just say collaborations, we love them. The Black Keys, maybe past their prime, but some cool shit. But it's also some personal shit I gotta work through with them.
Yeah, we need to move on to something else,
which is April. We will recap April next time we see you here on the Jam Yearbook.
Yeah, we will. And on the next episode, we don't have the pressure of putting a band together, so it'll be a lot easier for us. So, Matt, say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. And yes, so I'm going to constantly think the rest of the day about what better band could I have put together. I don't care. As long as I have Prince, I'm in the right. Let's go.
Yeah, Matt will have a revision on every episode going forward.
Every genre, every instance that you would need, I'll have an escape plan for.
Yeah, until then, we will say peace, love, and podcast.
Peace.